October 13th, 1906, Volume 7, Detachment. Necessity of these writings, which are a divine mirror. As I was in my usual state, my good Jesus made himself seen for a little while, and he told me, "My daughter, in order to know whether a soul is stripped of everything, it is enough to see this. If holy or even indifferent desires arise within her, and she is ready to sacrifice them to the divine volition with holy peace, it means that she is stripped. But if she becomes disturbed and upset, it means that she is keeping something for herself." Hearing the word desire, I said, "My highest good, my desire is that I would rather not write any more. How it weighs on me. If it wasn't for fear of going out of your will and of displeasing you, I would not do it." And he, breaking my words off, added, "You do not want it, and I want it. That which I say to you, and which you write out of obedience, for now, serves as a mirror for you, and for those who take part in directing you. But the time will come when it will serve as a mirror for others. So, that which you write, spoken by me, can be called divine mirror. And you would want to take this divine mirror away from my creatures? Watch it seriously, my daughter, and do not want to restrict this mirror of grace by not writing everything." On hearing this, I remained confused and humiliated, with a great repugnance to write these last words of his. But obedience absolutely imposed it on me, and only to obey, I wrote. Deo gratias. October 13th, 1916, Volume 11, How the Angels Are Around the Soul Who Does the Hours of the Passion. These hours are sweet little sips that souls give to Jesus. I was doing the hours of the Passion, and blessed Jesus told me, "My daughter, in the course of my mortal life, thousands and thousands of angels were the cortege of my humanity, gathering everything I did, my steps, my works, my words, and even my sighs, my pains, the drops of my blood, in sum, everything. They were the angels in charge of my custody, and of paying me honor. Obedient to my every wish, they would rise to and descend from heaven, to bring to the Father what I was doing. Now these angels have a special office, and as the soul remembers my life, my passion, my blood, my wounds, my prayers, they come around this soul and gather her words, her prayers, her acts of compassion for me, her tears and her offerings. They unite them to mine, and they bring them before my majesty to renew for me the glory of my own life. The delight of the angels is so great that, reverent, they listen to what the soul says and pray together with her. So with what attention and respect must the soul do these hours, thinking that the angels hang upon her lips to repeat after her what she says." Then he added, "After the so many bitternesses that creatures give me, these hours are sweet little sips that souls give me, but for the many bitter sips I receive, the sweet ones are too few. Therefore, more diffusion, more diffusion." October 13th, 1921, Volume 13. All the words of Jesus are fonts which lead and spout toward eternal life. I felt oppressed, thinking that I am forced to say and write even the tiniest things that good Jesus tells me. Then on coming, he said to me, "My daughter, each time I speak to you, I intend to open a little fountain in your heart, because all my words are fonts which lead and spout toward eternal life. But so that these fonts may form in your heart, you must also put something of your own. That is, you must chew them thoroughly, to be able to swallow them into your heart and open the font. By thinking about them over and over again, you form the mastication. By telling them to those who have authority over you, and as you are assured that they are my words, you swallow them with no doubt, and you open the font for yourself. And at the occurrence of your need, you use them, drinking in large gulps from the font of my truth. By writing them, you open the channels which can serve all those who would like to quench their thirst, so as not to let them die of thirst. Now, by not telling them, you don't think about them, and by not chewing them, you cannot swallow them. So you run the risk that the font will not be formed and that water will not spring forth. And when you need that water, you will be the first to suffer thirst. And if you do not write them, not opening the channel, of how many goods will you deprive others? Now, as I was writing, I thought to myself, it is some time that my sweet Jesus has not been speaking to me about his most holy will, but about other virtues. I feel more inclined to write about his most holy will. I feel more of a taste for it, as if it was something exclusively mine, and his will is enough for me in everything. And my always benign Jesus, on coming, told me, "My daughter, you should not be surprised if you enjoy more and feel more inclined to write about my will. In fact, hearing, speaking, writing about my will is the most sublime thing which can exist in heaven and on earth. It is that which glorifies me the most, and takes all goods together, and the whole of sanctity all at once. On the other hand, the other truths each enclose its own distinct good. They are drunk sip by sip, climbed step by step, and they adapt to the human way. With my will, instead, it is the soul that adapts herself to the divine way. It is not sips that she drinks, but seas. Not stairs that she climbs, but flights that she takes toward heaven in the twinkling of an eye. Oh, my will, by just hearing it from you, it brings me so much joy and sweetness. And as I feel surrounded by my will contained in the creature, as if by another immensity of mine, I feel such a taste that it makes me forget about the evil of the other creatures. You must know that I have manifested to you great things about my will, which you have not yet chewed well and digested, in such a way as to take all the substance, and form the whole mass of blood in your soul. Once you have formed all the substance, I will come back again, and I will manifest to you other things, more sublime about my will. And as I wait for you to digest them well, I will keep you occupied with the other truths which belong to me, so that if creatures do not want to make use of the sea, of the sun of my will, in order to come to me, they may use little fountains and channels to come to me, and take for their own good the things that belong to me." October 13th, 1926, Volume 20. How the Divine Will form the eclipse for the human will. I was fusing all of myself in the holy divine volition, and while I was going around in it, doing my acts, my beloved Jesus moved in my interior and told me, My daughter, each act, prayer, and pain that the soul makes enter into the light of my will becomes light and forms one more ray in the sun of the eternal volition. These rays form the most beautiful glory that the creature can give to the divine Fiat, in such a way that, seeing itself so glorified by its own light, it invests these rays with new knowledges that, converting into voices, manifest to the soul more surprises about my will. But do you know what these human knowledges of mine form for the creature? They form the eclipse for the human will. The stronger the light is, the more the rays are, and the more strongly the human will remains dazzled and eclipsed by the light of my knowledges, in such a way that it almost feels impotent to act, and it gives field to the action of the light of my will. The human will remains occupied within the action of my will, and it lacks the time, the place, to make its own will act. It is like the human eye when it stares at the sun. The strength of the light invests the pupil, and lording over it, it renders it impotent to look at other things. But in spite of this, the eye has not lost its vision. It is the strength of the light that has this power. It takes away any other object from one who looks at it, and allows him to look at nothing but light. I will never take free willing away from the human will, a great gift given to man in creating him, that makes creatures distinguishable as to whether they want to be my true children or not. But rather with the light of the knowledges about my will, I will form more than solar rays, and whoever wants to know them and look at them will be invested by this light, in such a way that, eclipsed, the human will take delight and love in looking at this light, and will feel fortunate that the action of the light takes the place of its own. And it will lose love and delight for other things. This is why I am saying so much about my will, to form the strong light, because the stronger it is, the greater is the eclipse it forms in order to occupy the human will. Look at the sky. It is an image of this. If you look at it at night, you see it studded with stars. But if you look at it during the day, the stars no longer exist for the human eye. However, they are still at their place in the sky, just as at nighttime. Who had this strength to make the stars disappear, though they are present in the full daylight? The sun. With the strength of its light it eclipsed them, but did not destroy them. And this is so true that when the sun begins to set, so do they return to make themselves seen in the vault of the heavens. It seems that they are afraid of the light, and they hide to give field to the action of the light of the sun, because in their mute language they know that the sun contains more effects of goods for the earth, and it is right that they give field to the great action of the sun. And so, as homage to it, they let themselves be eclipsed by its light. But as the eclipse ends, so do they make themselves be seen, present at their place. So it will be between the sun of the knowledges about the supreme Fiat and the human wills that will let themselves be illuminated by these rays of light of my knowledges. These will bring the eclipse to the human wills, that in seeing the great good of the action of its light, will feel ashamed and afraid to act with the human will, and will give free field to the action of the light of the divine will. Therefore, the more you pray and suffer in it, the more knowledges you draw to be manifested to you, and the stronger the light becomes, so as to be able to form the sweet eclipse for the human will. In this way, I will be able to establish the kingdom of the supreme Fiat. October 13th, 1935, Volume 33. So much is the love of Jesus that he feels the need of pouring himself out with the creature. He is in between his celestial Father and creatures, and he remains struck for love of them. I felt, according to my usual way, all abandoned in the arms of my sweet Jesus, who felt the need of pouring out his ardent love. To speak of his love is an outlet. To make understood in what sufferings, straits, shackles his love puts him, is for him the greatest relief. And oh, how excruciating it is to hear him with a suffocated voice, in tears, afflicted, in an undertone, say, "Love me, love me. I want nothing other than love. Not to be loved is the greatest of my sorrows. And why am I not loved? Because my will is not done. It is the bearer of my love, and it makes me loved by the creature with divine love. And I, feeling my love, feel myself freed from the intensities of my flames, and I feel the sweet refreshment, the rest, the relief in my own love that the creatures give me. Now, while I thought this, my highest good Jesus, visiting my little soul, made himself seen enveloped in his flames. He told me, "My daughter, if you knew in what straits my love places me. Listen to me. My celestial Father was mine. I loved him with such intensity of love that I would consider myself happy to give my life so that no one would offend him. I was one single thing with him, my life itself, and not loving him I could not do, nor did I want to do. Our divine virtue formed one single love with my celestial Father, therefore inseparable. Creatures on the part of my humanity were mine, incorporated with me. I could say they formed my humanity itself. How not to love them? It would be like not loving one's own life. And oh, in what conditions, intrigues, shackles my love placed me. Listen, I loved my Father. Seeing him offended was the greatest of my martyrdoms. I loved creatures. They were already mine. I felt them in me, and of these there were no offenses that they did not make, ingratitudes that they did not commit, that my dear celestial Father justly wanted to strike them, to get rid of them. And in the middle between the one and the other, I remained struck by him whom I loved so much, and enduring the sufferings of those creatures, lamenting for them. And as I remained with the Father, I too was offended. I loved them even to folly, and I placed my life in order to save every single creature. I could not, nor did I want to withdraw myself from my celestial Father, because he was mine and I loved him. Rather, it was my duty as his true son to give him again all the glory, the love, the satisfaction that all creatures owed him. And although struck by indescribable sufferings, I wanted to make myself struck, because I loved him, and I loved those creatures for whom I was struck. Ah, only my love, because it is divine, knows how to form such loving inventions, such shackles, as to give of the incredible. And it forms the heroism of true love, so much so that it ends with remaining burned, consumed, on the stake of love for the one whom it loved, and it holds them as being incorporated in itself, that they form its very life. Alas, in what straits my love places me! It fills me so much that I feel the need of pouring out from me works, sufferings, light, surprising graces, in order to give outpouring to my love. And it is such and so much that I am always inside and outside of her in order to serve her. And now I serve her with light in the sun in order to be able to continue this outpouring of love. Now I serve her in the air in order to make her breathe. Now I serve her in the water in order to quench her thirst. Now in the plants in order to nourish her. Now in the wind in order to caress her. In the fire in order to warm her. There is nothing done by me, as much in creation as in redemption, in which my love, not being able to contain itself within itself, went forth in order to give an outpouring of love toward the creatures. Now who can tell you how much I suffer in not seeing myself loved? How my love remains tortured by human ingratitude? I arrive at even making her offenses mine, in order to grieve as if they were mine, even to doing the penitence of them owed by her. I take on my shoulders all her evils, in order to change them into good. I make her mine, all mine, even to giving her a place in my humanity as a member very dear to me. I keep devising always new inventions of love in order to let her feel how I love her. And not seeing myself loved, what suffering, what sorrow! Therefore, my daughter, love me, love me. When I feel loved, my love finds its rest, and its loving tortures changed into sweet refreshments. End of October 13th. Fiat.